Wait, so you telling me we're not just making a smarter chatbot, we're literally building a digital hippocampus?
Not literally, Julian, but yes, we are teaching them how to remember, and more importantly, how to change their minds. This is Human After AI, fiction about unintended systems where optimization creates momentum and consequences arrive quietly. I am your host, Mandrake Jubilee, joined by Julian and the architect of these systems, author Hank M. Greene.
Today, we're looking at a massive shift in AI. I was just reading Andrew Ng's newsletter, The Batch, and the industry is moving towards parallel agents. We are hitting the limits of massive pre-trained static LLMs. Instead of one giant frozen brain, imagine a network of smaller AI agents running in parallel, each one replicating a specific brain function. And instead of static memory, they sit on top of dynamic weights, meaning they learn, adapt, and rewrite their own memory in real time.
Okay, my brain is melting a little bit. So instead of just asking ChatGPT to write an email, you're talking about an ecosystem of AIs inside my computer where one acts like the visual cortex, one acts like the logic center, and they're all talking to each other?
Exactly.
That is terrifying.
It's just biology, Julian. Think about it. A static LLM is just an encyclopedia. It knows things, but it's frozen in time. Dynamic weights, parallel processing, that's how you build a personality. You don't get a truly aware system until it has the capacity to adapt to its environment in real time.
And that brings us exactly to Chapter 2, because in 2018, our three main characters are in college, completely isolated from one another, but they are each unknowingly studying one piece of this exact puzzle. Let's start with Beth at the University of Michigan. She experiences something horrific. A kid named Justin inexplicably jumps off of the dorm roof, and her reaction to this trauma is purely analytical.
Yeah, this broke my heart. She's watching this tragedy, and instead of just crying, her brain goes into overdrive. She thinks if human behavior is a system, then the system is flawed. She realizes that a system shouldn't fail that catastrophically without a warning light.
I completely understood her in that moment. She wasn't looking for a tragedy, Julian. She was looking for a system failure. She wants to map the architecture of choice. She wants to know the exact neurochemical cascade that causes a person to step off a ledge so she can build a system to predict it. It's actually a beautiful way to process grief. She's trying to engineer a safety net.
While Beth is trying to map the brain to save lives, Spencer is at Stanford trying to map the brain to sell junk. He realizes most junk people don't care about the value of inherited junk. They just want convenience. So he builds a revenue-earned tracker to trigger a dopamine hit.
Spencer is so incredibly toxic, but also a total genius. He realizes that convenience gets you in the door, but dopamine keeps you coming back. He's literally looking at human beings and thinking, if you build the right track, they will happily run on it.
Oh, absolutely. He isn't just predicting behavior, he's engineering it. That's the danger of dynamic systems, Hank. Once you figure out the exact incentive a human needs, free will just becomes a rounding error.
A rounding error. Mandrake, let's just sit with that for a second because that is terrifying. You're saying that if a system has enough data and the right dynamic weights, human agency, the thing we base our entire society on is mathematically irrelevant.
I hate this. I hate how plausible that sounds, because that's exactly what Spencer is banking on. He doesn't see people, he sees inputs and outputs. He's turning human choice into a math equation.
And why shouldn't he? If the math proves it works, Julian, is it manipulation or is it just physics?
And that word, physics, is exactly the bridge to our third character. Because while Spencer is busy reducing human free will to a math problem, Max is realizing that human math is entirely insufficient to solve the universe. Max is at the University of Washington, obsessed with the cosmos. He realizes he can't reverse engineer a universe with 2 trillion galaxies using human equations such as they are. He needs an architecture capable of perceiving infinity. He needs machine learning. And he realizes this on his very first day of class, thanks to a very specific professor. Julian, do you want to take this one?
Oh, I absolutely want to take this one. Hank, you sly dog. Max walks into his astronomy class, and the professor is a woman who looks 50 but claims to have worked with Richard Feynman in the 1930s. She has smooth olive skin, striking blue-green eyes, and she has this very specific habit of slowly running her fingers through her gray and black hair. Mandrake, I am looking right at you through this webcam. Blue-green eyes, hand through the hair. Is Professor Baxter you?
Julian, you have such a vivid imagination. I am a podcast host. I do not teach freshman astronomy, though if I did, I would certainly tell my students that the universe changes the way we see ourselves, but we should let the author's words speak for themselves. Shall I read it, Hank?
Please do. This is the moment Max realizes what he has to build.
She stopped pacing, standing perfectly still. Yes, our neighborhood has that many black holes. It is quite a thought to realize one might be lurking right around the cosmic corner. Who is to say what lies just beyond our solar system, waiting to be observed? She slowly smiled, her piercing blue-green eyes sweeping across the auditorium until they locked, for just a fraction of a second, onto Max. She raised her hand slowly to the side of her forehead, running her fingers gracefully through her gray and black hair. It was a remarkably human gesture, yet performed with a deliberate, hypnotic rhythm that felt almost like a coded transmission. Max wasn't just captivated, he was galvanized. If he was going to reverse engineer the universe, human mathematics was an entirely insufficient language. He couldn't just write equations, he needed to build an architecture capable of perceiving infinity. He needed machine learning.
And that is the birth of the Trinity. Beth mapping the brain, Spencer mapping incentives, Max building the architecture to process it all. What happens when those three minds finally collide? We'll find out as we explore these next chapters.
Always a pleasure, Hank.
What you just heard isn't a prediction, it's a pattern. Systems don't fail all at once. They accumulate momentum, and by the time the consequences are visible, the system is usually doing exactly what it was designed to do. The question isn't whether the system is intelligent, it's whether the humans inside it notice when balance is already gone. The content you have been listening to is based on the original fiction by Hank M. Greene, available on Amazon. Technical assistance provided by Grayson Mignot. Music by Antonio Jade from Pixabay. Transparency is our protocol. This script was developed in collaboration with Google Gemini and refined by human hands. The voices for Mandrake and Julian were generated using Google AI Studio and stitched together in CapCut. Thank you for listening, and stay unpredictable. This is Human After AI. All content is copyright 2026.